Show presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Scratch a Track presented by The Dude and Grim Show. I am The Dude, and with me as always is Grim. How are we doing there, Grim? We all set up, buddy?
Now I think we are. I think everything seems to be going okay. A little rough start, but we're here.
Dude, Rome was not built in a day.
Yeah,
So,
neither was Scratch a Track
you,
presented by the Dude and Grim
some of you
Show.
listeners out there, we are actually... For you listeners out there, we're adding another element to this show, and that is we're starting to video this. So Grim's got his iPhone set up, I got my iPad set up, and this will be, hopefully if all goes well, this is the first time we've never done this before. So if a little shout out to our friend Ann, if this goes well, this will be found on our YouTube channel. And you know, if listening to us isn't enough for you and you really need to, you know, put some faces to the names, this is for you.
This is a way to do it. Okay. So without further ado,
enough of my, yes.
But this time it's not what's next, but dude, it's who's next.
Who?
Haven't got to the who yet, and I think this is a pretty good one to start with.
I'd say so.
Definitely a classic album. A lot of people would argue their best.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, in some of the podcasts, I guess we've done so far, well, I guess a few of them we have picked a band's more popular album, like with Radiohead and Pink Floyd. But then, you know, we did In Utero and stuff. But yeah, this one we're definitely going to do, you know, probably their most popular and well-known album. I think the other album I imagine that people would also know would probably be Tommy. That would probably be what its closest rival, you think?
Yeah, I would argue just because the sheer depth of the story, the scope of everything. And it's funny that you bring up Tommy, because this was initially going to kind of be a next stepping stone from Tommy, which was this bit by Townsend called the Lifehouse Project. And even after watching the documentary, I'm still a little fuzzy on what exactly that would entail, but
dude, you are not alone now, and you are not alone back then. That it seemed to be a very ambitious project. I mean, to say the least.
It was almost beyond description.
Yeah, it was,
or at least
take
in
a
a
lot
way
of, it was going to take a lot of, I guess, forms, a lot of mediums, and his vision was to integrate a lot of those. And I'm not even sure if he had a clear vision. I think that was also part of his frustration, is he had this grand idea of what he really expected it and wanted it to be. And he basically kind of came up with a script and an idea for it, and nobody else could grasp it. He described it, or it's been described, essentially it was supposed to be like a futuristic rock opera. Yeah. And music was kind of like in the world that we live in now or something. And music was banned, and people lived indoors, and they had like these suits on, which I imagine were kind of like, I don't know, restrictive suits or something like that, kind of controlled you and what you were able to do. And somehow the main character was able to like broadcast music into the suit.
Yeah.
And that eventually freed them.
Well, now a couple interesting things that I did read about this is, number one, there was this idea that all these suits, if you will, were kind of interconnected, and that there was this alternate form of reality, I guess you would say, that would completely immerse your senses when in these. So in a way, you could argue like foreshadowing of the internet and virtual reality.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, one of the interesting things that I found is that's a pretty advanced concept, especially for, this album came out in 71. So that's definitely ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But they, but I saw that Pete Townsend really wasn't into doing acid. He said he had done acid a few times, and back in the late 60s, early 70s, that was a big thing, especially in the music and rock and roll culture. And he had done it a few times and he didn't really like it.
Yeah.
But one thing it did do is he did say it got his ideas, it got his mind thinking a little bit. He really wanted to marry kind of the pop of like Tommy with the pop music with like kind of a mystical journey. And that's how he came up with Tommy.
Yeah.
And Tommy was very successful, and it seems like he wanted to build off that and take it to the next level. And this was going to incorporate, he said, kind of like live action into a movie, and he was going
audience
to integrate
integration.
Yeah. There was something that I read. He had like the synthesizer, and he was going to have everybody in the audience do something. I don't know what it was, but that was going to feed into the synthesizer and produce this sound. So it was like everybody was going to be contributing to the music. It would have been really interesting to hear what that would have sounded like. I mean, in theory, I get it. You're like, man, this could be amazing. But dude, let's be honest. It could also sound like shit.
Yeah, well, right? That's true. And so ultimately, all this stuff leads to a near nervous breakdown. And from the ashes of what was going to be this comes a lot of the songs that ended up making this album.
Yeah. Well, and... yeah, I mean, there were... That's one thing I think everybody could agree on, is that, hey, I don't know about this futuristic mystical journey that you want to take us on, but there's at least 8 or 9 good songs in here. How about we just go record those?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Essentially what they ended up doing.
Yep, and from what I understand, 3 different locations. Of course, some of it was an offsite things, again, using the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio. God, dude, I want to see this thing because it sounds fucking awesome.
I was just going to say, Led Zeppelin recorded part of 3 on that.
Yeah.
And then part of Won't Get Fooled Again was recorded on that at Mick Jagger's house, no less.
Yeah. And the whole thing sounds pretty awesome. Yeah. And then some of it was in New York. I can't think of where. And then Olympic in London. So kind of they were a little all over the place. But honestly, when I'm looking at it, I would say Olympic. Fairly short span of time that it was recorded, which was between April and June of 71.
Yeah. Well, so here's the deal with New York is that they had this guy, he was their manager-ish.
Oh, yeah,
Kit
Lambert, yeah.
Kit Lambert, but he also seemed to have a lot of influence on their creativeness, and, it was kind of like Janine from
Spinal
Tap. This is good, or this is shit.
Yeah.
She's, brutally honest, and
it
sounds like that's what Kit was like. So they wanted to go to New York because apparently at the time, whatever studio that was pretty technologically advanced. Mm-hmm. So they go to New York and they start recording there, but our boy Kit kind of had a run in with some smack and had a hard time, getting away from that. And Pete Townsend was worried that Keith Moon was going to get in on it.
Yeah.
So they kind of things weren't going well in New York. They didn't feel comfortable there, so they left. And they went back to Europe and or London and regrouped. And I think they ended up all the recording and stuff that they actually even did in New York. I think they ended up scrapping all that and restarting.
Oh, really? Now that I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I just watched the documentary a couple weeks ago, but the weeks in quarantine kind of just they're more like months
run together.
Yeah,
dude, it could have been yesterday or 2 weeks ago. I really don't know. Like, dude, you asked me what I did 3 hours ago. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Anyways, so I don't know if we want to get really into the album quite yet. I mean, so this album did come out it went to the top of the charts. It's been on like all time lists. It's very, very popular, famous. Some of probably their most popular songs. But another thing I think to talk about is the cover, because the cover itself is very recognizable. It's one that has always stuck in my mind of pretty much any band. And it was kind of interesting. The idea came from actually 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was Stanley Kubrick's movie. And apparently John Entwistle and Keith Moon were kind of talking about it and whatnot. And they just got the idea to, hey, well, let's go take a picture and we'll be pissing on it, or it'll look like we have pissed on it or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of a lot of the symbolism behind it. Maybe they didn't like the movie. It did leave, I will say, I'm a huge Kubrick fan. It did leave a lot open to interpretation. But visually it's stunning. So,
the interesting thing is I've had this for many years, and I don't think it was until maybe within like the last 5 that I noticed like the what looks like piss on the wall. Honest to God, I thought it was like shit. I never picked up on it. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, huh, that's interesting.
I got it. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you saw this, but that wasn't the only idea that they actually had for the album cover. There's a couple other really good ones. So one of them included the group urinating against a Marshall stack and an overweight nude woman with the Who's faces in place of her genitalia. That would have been a very interesting concept. I have a feeling that Walmart would not have stocked that album.
Yeah.
Not that there was a Walmart at the time, but
yeah.
There would have been some backlash.
There would have.
I have a feeling.
Holy cow, that's something.
Yeah. Another one was going to have Keith Moon dressed in black lingerie and a brown wig holding a whip. Another interesting concept. I'm really happy that they went with the album they chose, the cover they chose.
Agreed. Yeah. I think it probably would stand the test of time a lot better.
Yeah. So,
and an interesting thing about that photo, as I understand it, that is not the actual sky.
No,
they replaced the sky in there to give it this like otherworldly kind of vibe.
Yeah, pre-Photoshop days.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Like actually cutting it with scissors, probably.
Probably, yeah. I doubt anybody in the band did that, but somebody did it.
Yeah. But no, it looks cool. Very recognizable.
It does. Yeah, I dig it. It's a cool cover, especially for. I guess other Abbey Road, but there's a lot of classic album covers. A lot of them don't have the band on it. This is one that actually has the band. Yeah. On the cover. You think of some of the famous Led Zeppelin albums and obviously the Pink Floyd albums. Those are the ones that really come to mind. Mm-hmm. They're typically not on the cover, but these guys pulled it off.
Yeah, no, and it looks good, and yeah, it definitely stands the test of time.
Oh yeah. Well, my friend. You ready to roll on this bad boy?
Yeah, I would say, because any of the controversy, I guess, regarding the album kind of was already discussed in terms of coming out of the ashes of the failed Lifehouse project. So, yeah, at this point, I think you just kind of dive into the tracks and see where we end up.
All right. Numero uno. Side one, again, we should say that this did come out as an LP, so we'll kind of take side one and side two.
Yeah.
In that order. But yeah, first one, I think it was the second single. Won't Get Fooled Again was the first single. So this is the second single, but a very recognizable song, Bobo O'Reilly. The intro itself is probably what really stands out the most and catches most people's ear.
Yeah, that kind of synthesizer loop. Now, I did hear a lot of things about this became very challenging to pull off live at the time because it was an actual tape loop that they would play. So then Keith Moon has to wear these gigantic headphones and be able to play against that loop for it to kind of work right, which...
Right.
That's tough for a band, especially a band with a drummer
Live.
like Keith Moon that just
Yeah.
rips the goddamn drum set apart.
Well, yeah, and I think they talked about doing that live, and it didn't give them a whole lot of flexibility to improvise, or they had to basically kind of stick sort of
right
to
to
the
it.
track. And they even talked about sometimes it didn't work out so well. Like sometimes the tape and things would fail. Because technology, I mean, nowadays, just plug a laptop in and you're good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so, yeah, and this is, it's a classic song. It's to me, it's a great song. I love the opening synth, the way it comes in. It's very cool. And then when the piano comes in and really hits, it's just really like crisp and clean. It just has a really, really good sound. And I feel like the overall production, it sounds very big. In each with this song, each instrument kind of comes in, sort of announces its presence, and I mean, we talked before, I think during the Led Zeppelin 3 about Robert Plant's vocal range, and I feel bad that when I brought up some other singers, I didn't bring up Roger Daltrey, but his ability, his range is incredible. It is absolutely incredible, and it's right on par with anything Robert Plant can do. I mean, they both got the screams, and they sound
absolutely.
pristine.
And interestingly, I saw them, the Who, or what's left of the Who, 2 summers ago, I think, 3 summers ago. And boy, he can almost still pull all that off with his voice. He's still real close. Where, as you've heard some of the stuff, like let's say Robert Plant's done he kind of lost a bit of his.
Yeah. That's a good point. I saw the Who live as well. I think on the same tour. We just saw them in different places, and it was a phenomenal show. I mean, it was great.
Really good.
They crushed it. And so I guess kind of wrapping up on Baba O'Reilly, great song. I really like when the violin I think it's a violin comes in at the end. It kind of turns into this jig almost a little bit. And that's one thing about this album. It does have sort of at times, it's such a weird combination of sounds. It has a little bit of a jig folksy feel, and you wouldn't think to put this kind of spacey synthesizer sound along with that, but it really works, and I think it works consistently throughout the album.
Yeah. Yep. And again, I would agree with your sentiment about being a really excellent song, despite, however, really being beat the hell up by classic rock radio.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll hear it once a day, at least, any day of the week, 365. Yeah. It's.
Yep. You're going to hear this, and you're going to hear Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yep.
And you'd hear Behind Blue Eyes as well. That's another
I think
one
so too.
I'd hear. Yeah.
Now, one I wish you would
every day, but go ahead.
Yeah, one I wish you would hear as the second track is Bargain, because I think Bargain is a fantastic rock song and really does not get enough credit, I guess, because radio probably at the time was primarily driven by singles as opposed to people listening to the record and playing what they wanted. But I think Bargain's a good song, good lyrics. I don't know, great guitar licks.
Well, one thing that's interesting about the Who as well is Daltrey and Townsend, they share and trade off lyrics or singing on a lot of songs.
Yeah,
and this is one of them, and I think there's not actually, I mean, other than the Beatles, where everybody gets a shot, right? A lot of the bands, well, I mean, I guess Pink Floyd, you have you do have some Waters and Gilmore, they do sing and everything, but it's just I find it interesting that they would trade on and off, and I think Townsend wrote a lot of the lyrics as well, didn't he? I'm not sure
I believe,
for
and
that.
Interestingly enough, I mean, it'd be one thing if everybody's playing an instrument like the Beatles, but it's got to be because with Daltrey, I mean, he just like swings the microphone around or something.
He's really, dude, I'll tell you what, man, I've seen those videos. I am surprised. I'm sure at one point he hit somebody or hit
Himself.
Townsend or Entwistle, or himself and like knocked himself out, because he is swinging the hell out of it. It is violent, and it's going far. It's going far, man. It's not like it's on like a 3-foot kind of cord, man. Dude, it's 10, 15 feet, man. It's got some range.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Bargain is definitely it's a really good song, and one thing I've noticed on this album, they do it a handful of times where songs start off really slow and then they kind of move into this harder, rockier music part. There's this song, and we'll get to some of the other ones, but there's at least 3 or 4 other songs that they just seem to be very, I don't know if I'd say it's a formula, but it's like they'll start off with a slow acoustic or a slow piano, and then all of a sudden everything
builds
comes in
up.
and hits.
But then at this one you get like kind of at some point like a bridge that's really that's where Townsend's singing, where it's much more slowed down, and then kind of gets back into it. Right.
So here we are with number 3, Love Ain't for Keepin'.
Yeah.
And to me, again, this has it kind of has like a folky feel with a lot of acoustic in the song.
Yeah.
It's just over 2 minutes, so it's a very, very short song. Very short song. And I'm not sure. I think there's synth on most of the other songs in the album. I don't know if I hear synth in this one.
Yeah, I don't believe there is. I don't think there really is in Bargain.
That's true.
Too much either, but I do like, it could be a volume pedal, but not to jump back to it, but I do like in the beginning that it almost sounds like a reverse guitar, the way it comes in.
Yeah. Right. Move on to number 4, which is My Wife, and this is, to me, this is the most interesting song on the album, because this is John Entwistle, the bass player of The Who, who's a phenomenal bass player. I guess he was doing a solo album and solo work.
Yeah.
And they needed a song or wanted a song, and he contributed this one. I think he just had it like left over from his solo album.
Well, and
it makes this, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good song, but I think he did a really good vocal performance. And I did not know that all the brass at the end of that, because there's horns at the end of it. I had no idea that was him doing that. All those parts, which that was really cool. And apparently that was done in like 1.5 hour session in the studio. He just went in and just banged all that stuff out.
Dude, nice. That's really great. Yeah, and that is interesting to have him sing on the album, because I think he does a really good job. It's just hard when you're going up against somebody who can sing like Roger Daltrey. It's quite the contrast. But one thing I really like about it is his cadence and how he sings the song and in his words. I that's one thing that really stands out to me. I really like that.
Yeah, and it's so, the lyrics are so over the top, and you know, his wife's pissed at him. It's pretty funny, honestly.
So last song on side 1, we go with The Song Is Over.
Yep.
Again, this is one of those ones that I kind of mentioned before. It starts off slow with the piano, right?
Yep.
And then it kind of takes over. And I think Townsend actually is taking the lead on vocals, or at least
on the verses.
First part. Yeah.
And
it's the second longest song. So it's I don't know if I'd say it's repetitive, but maybe it kind of is. It seems to just kind of follow the same sort of pattern.
Yeah, and I don't, in my opinion, it doesn't quite have the punch of some of the other like songs. It doesn't hit as hard for me. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, at least from to me though, I will say in visually, I'm thinking of the movie and the idea, and we talked a little bit about the concept of wanting this people in this futuristic world, and them music getting pumped into their suits and them kind of breaking free. I kind of get the song feels like that to me. It feels like this is them getting out and becoming free almost for like the first time, and seeing the world for the first time in hearing music and getting out there.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's also I think kind of a love song, but that's kind of, I guess, the feeling that it really invoked just from me from listening to it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, honestly. And I guess that's a funny thing, because I prior to really looking into this and maybe even watching the documentary, I guess I never heard any of these songs with that context in mind, because I didn't really understand that, or I didn't know about it enough.
Yeah, right.
To know that so much of this was kind of built around this concept.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah. I don't think we ever got to see its full potential. Although I think in 99 he came out with some sort of like a lighthouse something. I don't know what it was, but he did come out with something. But at that point, I don't know if I was really into it.
Yeah.
So then we move on to side 2 here, and we go with Getting in Tune. Again, another song that starts with a light piano and bass intro, and song opens up. Do you know if Townsend played piano on all the songs? Because, dude, he's really good, man. I like what he plays.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look at that, honestly. But let's see here. No, Nicky Hopkins did piano on The Song Is Over and Getting in Tune. And Nicky Hopkins, man, he did some phenomenal piano work for the Stones. I mean, dude, if you start looking at like any of the Stones songs with excellent piano work on it and go looking, 9 times out of 10, I would think it would be Nicky Hopkins who did it. Really? I'd actually like to know more about him, because he played just excellent piano on a lot of, or keyboard in general, but on a lot of these, a lot of the English bands from that era. Excellent musician.
Very cool. Good to know. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, who was it? Was it Dick Perry? Did he play?
With the sax. He was a
sax.
No, he was
Floyd?
the one with Floyd. Bobby Keys was a Stone sax player. And
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bobby Keys. Yeah, he's good. All right, well, let's get going, buddy. And when we get going, we're gonna go mobile.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, it has a real upbeat kind of folky feel.
Yeah.
I just like this. I like the way this song moves. I think Townsend sings this one, and I think
he
it's
does.
Just him. So what is, if they play this live, what does Roger Daltrey do?
I hope he's a hell of a tambourine player, honestly.
Because Robert Plant does that. You see that he'll pull out the tambourine. That's what I was gonna say. It's like if you can't really play an instrument, just give him some alternate percussion,
or like a harmonica or something. The mouth harp. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
Which
go ahead.
I think there actually may be mouth harp in the beginning of this. I'd have to listen back, but I think it's kind of barrel, barrel, barrel. If you hear that noise,
is that what that is? I thought that was another Who song. Oh man,
it could be. I'm kind of, I don't know,
mixing them up.
Yeah.
Moving on, number 8, Behind Blue Eyes.
Classic, been covered a lot of times. Really good lyrics. Really good, just chord progression, song in general, but I think the lyrics are really kind of piercing almost. They are.
I really like, there's a couple things. I really like the harmonies in this song, and the background vocals. They're very full and sound kind of, I guess, angelic maybe.
Yeah.
In Daltrey's, again, showing not even so much, I don't even want to say a wide range, but a little bit of diversity in how he sings, compared to, which we'll get to the next track, Won't Get Fooled Again, where, he belts out and screams. In this one, his vocals, they're kind of very direct, but they also kind of have a sort of a gritty sound at times.
Yeah, I agree.
And I like it. But yeah, to me, the lyrics, my favorite line, but my dreams, they aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be. Like that, to me, that's just like one of the best lines. In
rock and roll.
It's pretty solid. Song has good transitions. It just has that kind of soft and sorrowful,
but hard too. I mean, it gets heavy. Yeah. But I mean, even it's tough because there are so many good ones on this album. But I mean, that is one that I think, again, has been covered so many times. And in different, I mean, there was a recent cover of it. I don't remember who did it. It was one of the newer rock bands that will probably not be featured on Scratch a Track. But again, then you expose this song to like a whole new generation of kids who are like, man, that song is awesome. It becomes kind of timeless in that way.
Yeah, it is cool. And then, hopefully those kids go back and, hear where it came from. Cause I mean, we've talked about covers and stuff before. There are times where the cover is actually better. I don't know if you could do a better cover than the original of this song.
No. Which, I know that doesn't fit with the format of Scratch a Track, but that could be a bonus episode, I think. Better than the original covers.
Better than the original, dude. That'd be pretty great. Or we could bring back up the back from the day at the Dude and Grimm show in college where we picked songs of the same name.
Dude,
all right, that was pretty great.
There's gonna be a bonus episode per season.
Right. Yes. I got a couple other ideas. We'll talk about that after we get off this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we don't want to give all our secrets away.
Yeah. No, we can't. But it's a good little teaser.
It is good teaser.
So won't get fooled again. I mean, interestingly enough, I think a lot of times, I know there's a shortened version of this, but I think that it has become popular enough where a lot of times, even when our favorite classic rock radio stations play the song, they will play it in its entirety.
Dude, play it all, man. You gotta. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I always thought prior to watching the documentary that was all synthesizer, and come to find out he was using the synthesizer as the trigger. And really the sound you're hearing is the organ. And what the synthesizer does is rhythmically triggers when it's going to allow that. So that's where you get that, you get the rhythm with that.
Dude, he must have spent some time figuring that out and working that up, don't you think?
Yeah, but I do, but it's funny because even, I mean, those watching the video, there's some synthesizers in the background here that I can do kind of similar things with. But most instruments, it wouldn't work as well with. But the reason why it works so well with the organ is because an organ, when you hit the note, it doesn't ring out and fade away. That note will stay on as long as your hand is on that key. And so therefore you can hold those chords and get that repetitive trigger and just change notes. I
think they show in the documentary.
Yeah, they showed him doing
video.
It. Yeah.
And that was, it was a very interesting for me, who's not, any sort of musician, to look at that, because he's like hitting different keys, but when he hits that key, you're not hearing almost certain, different changes. It was weird. It was almost like what he was playing didn't quite match up with what I was hearing, but I really liked what I was hearing.
Well, because I think you can, depending on the timing of how you hit those keys, you can hit it during, typically that function I think is called sample and hold.
Okay.
And so sometimes that, to me, and again, not being a huge expert, but the hold is like your rest where you're not hearing it. So if you're changing notes on the hold, you're not going to hear it when he changes the note. You won't hear the effect of that until the next time the sample comes through. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure, that makes sense.
Because then you'll never actually hear the change. It just that bounce, that bounce that it kind of has.
Yeah,
it just seems to kind of flow. It's a really neat thing, and I loved in the documentary to not only see him doing that with the equipment, but actually hearing like the demo tape that he made of it by himself.
Right.
Because
cool.
he was playing the drums on it and even made some sort of a joke about how like it sounded vastly different because Keith Moon, of course, just tore it apart.
Yeah. I think he said he used to, when he would do those demos, he would try to play like Keith, but then he was like, but nobody can play like Keith. So it's just kind of like,
it just kept it real simple.
So I just stopped trying at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, this song is definitely, it was the first single of the album, and it would be really interesting. I do know there is like a shortened 3.5 minute version. It'd be really interesting to listen to that, because to me that's a complete different song, because I imagine they're cutting out, there's that long
middle organ
section.
part. Yep.
Which, dude, I love that. That's kind of like to me, just like the sort of the journey.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
And everything else drops out, and that becomes the centerpiece. And then Keith Moon comes in with a couple like drum flourishes and everything.
Yeah.
And then Daltrey leaves, screams out one of the
it's the
insane.
definitive primal scream. It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best one.
You hear the peak, you hear the crunch.
Oh,
and it's so good.
I think if you did a top 5, I mean that it would have to be, the beginning Immigrant Song, Lennon, and I Want You, She's So Heavy, Daltrey, and Won't Get Fooled Again. I mean those, and actually one that I think would go unsung would be the I think her name was Doris Troy, but she was the female singer in another album we already talked about, which was Let It Bleed. When she has her, you can hear her voice peak in it too, and it is just wonderful.
Yeah. Jeez, and then there's Claire Torrey on Great Gig in the Sky. Damn. All right. Maybe that's another episode.
Primal Screams.
Primal Screams. Coming to a podcast near you.
Yeah.
All right, Graham. So I think it's about time to pull out the screwdrivers and razor blades. What do you say?
Man, I guess so. I guess it would be about that time, duder.
All right. Drop it like it's hot.
Well, to me, the title says it best, and the song is over. And I had
a feeling you were going there, dude.
It's one of those ones I can skip without really the blink of an eye. And not that it isn't a great song, but it just there's such a, I guess to me, a drive throughout the rest of the album that I just don't feel as much with this one anyways.
Yeah, that one I agree. I was kind of contemplating that one as well. One thing I don't really love about it is I don't really love the slow part with the piano. Mm-hmm. And Townsend singing in the beginning, the song is over, and to me it just doesn't sound, it's just not pleasing to my ears.
Yeah.
I do like it when it picks up a little bit, but I do feel it's a little repetitive, and it's an over, what is it, 6 minutes and 20 seconds. It's a fairly long song, and it just doesn't, I can see. But that's not my scratch. My scratch, I'm going to go with Love Ain't For Keeping.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 minutes. It's a song. Like it just doesn't really do much for me, and it's one that I can definitely skip over. And I do like My Wife, and
dude, yeah, you have to.
I
like mine too.
And yeah, and then I like I like The Song Is Over enough, but I could probably also skip over that just to get to Getting in Tune. So.
See, the only way that I could meet in the middle on that one is if you could make the song is over 2 minutes and Love Ain't for Keeping 6. But I think that's about all I can do for you on that one.
Yeah, I don't know if that can happen, brother. I don't know, but
I know.
But I think that would work. So, all right. Well, who's next is officially scratched by the Dude Grim. Well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this, our first video episode. At least I hope it turns out. We don't really know what the final product is going to be.
Hey,
yet,
mine is still going. I'm looking.
Dude, so
it's
is mine.
still going. And
Dude,
cheers to that.
Yeah, as long as we get our frame rates and everything in order, I think we'll be in luck. So we'll see. And if not, well, hopefully we'll figure it out next time.
And stay tuned for the bonus episodes, which wasn't even planned. That just kind of came out of nowhere.
Dude, the ideas are just percolating, my friend.
Well, it's like spin-off shows. I mean, it's Breaking Bad was awesome, and then dude, you might as well watch Better Call Saul because that's dude. The cover show is our Better Call Saul.
Yeah, dude, I'm waiting for the Pollo Loco spinoff. That's what I want. All right, brother. I think we're about to scratch this one out. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back again. We seem to be dropping episodes every Wednesday, and we're going to kind of stick to that until we decide to, drop it on another day. So, until next time, Dude and Grim are out. Happy scratching, y'all.
Scratch you later.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE and the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020, The Dude and Grim Show.